Thank you. I hope you're feeling relaxed. I don't dare to tell anything after such an emotional talk, but I hope you're feeling relaxed. And I was wondering tonight if you came over to here, maybe a lot of people had to rush to get in time here, right? Yeah. Did you feel stressed, like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it? Yes? So why did you do it? I mean, why didn't you stay at home and just do nothing, right? It's easier. No? But you're here. And I want to trigger you with one quote from a French philosopher from a long time ago, 17th century. His name is Blaise Pascal. And this quote goes as follows. He says, "All misery from mankind stems from the fact that human beings are unable to sit quietly in their room." I repeat, all misery from mankind stems from the fact that human beings are unable to sit quietly in their rooms. 17th century. And I can imagine, suppose I didn't tell you the century, maybe you would have agreed with me that this quote fits wonderfully well into our society. Because that's what we do if we meet each other and you ask people, how are you? How are you doing? What do we tell? We say, fine. Well, we always say fine, even when we're not fine, but we say fine. But then we say, well, I'm busy. I'm really busy, in fact. And that struck me because until the end of the 60s, many magazines, such as Time magazine, predicted that one of the major problems of 21st century would that be of boredom. Really, boredom. They thought, well, labor gets automatized, electronics enter the household, and people start to work less hours than, oh, I pushed the wrong button. That's the right one. And people start to work less hours because they have vacation days, they have weekends. So what will these people do in the 21st century with all the hours of free time? But look at us. We're 2016. We're swamped with bucket lists, with career opportunities, with nursing our children into creative and successful young beings. And we want to deploy ourselves. We want to realize ourselves. And this is an interesting paradox, isn't it? We work on an average basis less hours than our grandparents, but we have more to do. That's fascinating. We work less and we have more to do. We have more free time and we sleep less, because if you compare it to 150 years ago, on an average basis, we sleep for about 1.5 hours less than 150 years ago. So what happened? What did we do from 150 years until today? Well, if people are in a hurry, if we are leading busy lives, what do? We are looking for what is called a peaceful mind, a balance. And that's what many people do today, right? We're in a rush and we're told that we need to find a balance. Well, what I learned from a German philosopher, Martin Heidegger is his name, is that the most difficult thing in the world, that's typical for philosophers, the most difficult thing in the world is to pose the right question. Because the way you frame a question is determinant for the answer you will give. So the question is, what is our problem today? Are we indeed looking after a balance we lost somewhere? Or are we obsessed with the idea that leading a good life means that you have to be in balance? So what actually is the question? What is our problem today? Why are we complaining about the fact that we have so many things to do and at the same time we keep on doing them? So let me return one more time to Blaise Pascal, one of my favorites. Pascal, already in the 17th century, knew very well how human desire works. because his observation is so interesting. He said, look, people are complaining about the fact that their lives are too busy. But if you ask them, just simply do nothing, the only thing they want to do is to run away out of that room. Because people are so bad in doing nothing. Well, doing nothing may be some sort of fantasy a lot of people have. And at the same time, once you're in the midst of it, it feels like awkward, like, oh my God, there's nothing to do. Where can I go to? Now, let's get back to our time, 2016. What do we do? If we ask the question, what about the time? What is our relationship to time? Most of us work for about 320 days a year, their butts off. They do as much as they can, as efficient as they can. Leaving them with 40 days in which they try to do nothing. And then they are seduced by all kinds of advertisements from vacation resorts, selling them like, this is the whole of paradise, you don't have to do anything. Just lay down next to the swimming pool, having your cocktail, and don't do anything. Well, maybe. Could be interesting. But what I find interesting is that while people are lying next to the swimming pool, in all these vacation resorts, many professionals are being full-timely paid to keep people busy next to the swimming pool, because once they're lying there for 2 days, they're so utterly bored. I think, that's the wrong button again, I have 2 choices. And I made the wrong one. Okay, there I am, restlessness. I think we have to make a choice. Either we stop complaining and we just go on, because apparently if it's so wonderful what we do, why should we stop? And if it would be so terrible, why don't we just stop doing things? Because if it would all be awful, why would we do it? Now, Pascal's conclusion was, all misery stems from the fact, etc., etc. That's a rather negative conclusion. I try to look at it from a different angle. Why not try to look at the way we, and that's what I call restlessness, at the way we are restlessly seeking for making something of our life. Because that's one of the fundamental reasons why we are unable to sit quietly in that room. We want to make something of our life. Well, what would be the worst thing? That we have too much to do because we love to do so many things and there's so many things to choose. Or the other way around, that there's nothing to do, that you get up every morning and every weekend and ask yourself, oh my God, what am I going to do in this weekend? There's no TEDx on Saturday, so it's tonight. What are you going to do tomorrow, and on Sunday, and the next weekend, and the weekend thereafter? So my plea is not to do nothing. My plea is not to get in balance. My plea is try to follow your passion. Try to lead a life in which your passions are at the center of it. Try to find an activity where your passions are at the center. And then I don't think you need to find a balance, because the balance is in what you do. So what I wish to all of you is lead a passionate and restless life and not a boring one. Thank you.